Okay. What types of writing do you do in early childhood education?
So we do narrative writing, we do informational, and we do opinion. We start the year off with narrative, and we have a huge push this year towards oral storytelling. So we use this book, Talking, Drawing, Writing. It's lessons for our youngest readers. It's by Martha Horn and Mary Ellen Giacobbe. And we actually did some training through the district, and people went to Lucy Calkins. We really moved to that model this year, and so it's more of a writer's workshop model. The beginning of the year, like I said, is all oral storytelling. So I do a lot of meeting at the rug, and we start off by telling a story as a whole class. So I pick something that we've done, all of us have been a part of. So I did do a fire drill. We're all part of a fire drill. We talk about who's in our story, what's happening, and the setting of the story. And then we get into telling a story across our fingers. So we have a character, setting, then a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we go over the same story over and over and over again, that fire drill story, and we all kind of tell it together as a group orally. So there's a lot of modeling, which is so important. Then each day at the beginning of the year, this probably starts in October, I have kids try to come up and tell a story, and I remind them to use their fingers, and we talk about how stories, we add to an eye chart on my smart board every day, how stories have a beginning, a middle, and end, the characters, the setting, and then how everyone is a storyteller. That's the most important part. I really want them to get invested, that they are storytellers, that have real stories that have actually happened to them, and each day we add something to our list. So we are storytellers. We tell real stories that really happened to us. Our stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I keep a chart every day of different things that we've learned, and I add to that chart. Each day when I have a couple storytellers up to the front of the room, they sit in the author's chair to make that sort of special. That's a spot where they sit and they tell stories orally. And then we, as a class, I sit on the rug, and I'm one of the members of the audience, which really gets them, they're so excited that I'm an audience member and I'm not, we talk about how it's your story and no one should be interrupting your story because they don't know your story. And each day I add a new storyteller name, or 3 or 4 to our list, and by the time that we've circled through pretty much everyone, it happens over the course of a couple of weeks. So eventually kids that are even the shyest of kids or English language learners, they will eventually come up, and I try to help them. If they can't develop a story topic idea, then I'll pick something that I know happened at school, like a fire drill, and we tell it together just so that they can really take ownership of that too. We're just in the middle of an interview. Can I come in after?
Sorry.
So then from there, we start to transfer it to paper, and at the same time, I was doing mini lessons, and I use a lot of books, mentor texts, and I have lists of the mentor texts from this book, Talking, Drawing, and Writing. They're at the back, and then I also have lists in our Lucy Calkins Reading and Writing Project series that we have that the district gave to us. So I'll pick a mentor text, and when we start to talk about drawing, I will share a different book over the course of the week. I'll read the same book, and we pay attention to the pictures, and we look at the characters, and then I'll do like a mini lesson on how to draw people. So in the book, it kind of guides you through that, which is really nice, and it tells you what's going on in the classroom, the materials that you need, and things to be noticing during the lesson. So there's actually pretty explicit lesson plans in here that I do use, and I kind of pick and choose what feels right for my class. And we did read one of the books, Big Mamas, which was by Donald Cruz, and we talked about how to draw people and then draw realistic people, and then I send them to their seats and they give it a shot and they try to draw a realistic person. And at this point we're still oral storytelling, so they're kind of drawing the pictures, people for me, and then they're still focusing on a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then after they're feeling pretty good and confident about their drawing, and we're moving away from stick figures. The whole thing is to move away from stick figures and get to realistic drawings. And I don't know if you see in here, there's some pictures that I model for them. I show them, and then I show them different ways to draw people, and how you can draw the front of a person, the side of a person, people in action, that people need clothes. So then we start to add all those details to our pictures. And then we move into our stories. We pick a story that really happened to us, and by this time they've told that story to themselves and to me, probably the same story about 5 or 6 times, and so they're feeling really good about it. And we talk about telling a story across the pages, and they each have these drawing writing notebooks, and so they have to touch and tell. They oral story tell it to a friend, and then they touch and tell the beginning of my story, what's happening in the story, the middle, and then the end. And they're just focusing on the oral piece. Then after they've done that and they've told the story to me or another teacher in the classroom, they are allowed to go back and they work one page at a time on just drawing pictures, the beginning of their story, who's in the story, that we talk about using at least 3 details at the beginning and at least 3 colors. That's like through December we do that, and then I up it to 5 colors and 3 details still. And like you can see in here, she's drawing a realistic person, which is great. And then we talk a lot about, sometimes the pictures start to all sort of look the same. So then I go back into my lessons, and there are actually lesson plans that tell me when they start to look the same, what you can do to encourage different types of drawing. And it's called Going Beyond Safe Drawings. So they're safe. It's hard for them to take a risk. They don't want to make a mistake. They're 5 and 6. So I really encourage going beyond that, being a risk taker. And I talk about erasing and that it's okay to erase. And as you erase, you are fixing it, and you have grit, and you're making it better. And then I compliment kids as I see them using an eraser, which is great. And then we move through, we have the pictures down, then we moved into labeling our pictures. So I found that the Lucy Calkins, they talk about stretching words out, but I've in the past also used my own way of stretching out words. So I do lists, which look like this, and we will start together at number 1, and we brainstorm on the rug about, say the topic, I start with colors. So say the topic is green, we think about things that are green, and then we do the first 3 together on our list, and we stretch out the words. So anything that's green that comes to their mind, they might say grass, and we stretch out the word grass together. Grass. And they're listening really closely. We pretend to have this elastic band. They're listening really closely, and they're writing down the sounds that they hear. At this point, I am not focused. This list has foundations lines on it, but I'm not focusing on the handwriting. I'm just focusing on the sounds that they hear and writing it down. There's been a big push this year to just focus on the sounds and do handwriting separately, because we find a lot of kids can't process the way the letter should be formed at the same time that they're trying to process what sound they hear, and that sound is represented by a letter. So, and that's been hard. That's been a challenge for me this year, because I'm so used to saying, go back, show me how that G should look, that sort of a thing. And we do a lot of these lists. So we do like 6 or 7 different colors, and by the time we get through the different colors, kids are now more independently stretching out words and coming up with their own ideas on their own. So then they go back into their writing, and this is all kind of going on at the same time. They go back into their writing and drawing notebooks and the stories that they've done, and they practice labeling pictures. And there's lessons in my writing and drawing notebook that I refer to in the Lucy Calkins that talk about the stretching. So they've got that skill down. Then they go back and they start to stretch out words. And even if they can get the beginning sound down, I'm pumped. I'm excited. So they write the beginning sound. I make sure to go around and fill in the rest of it with a pen. So I know she got fire. She got beginning, middle, and end, which was great. She just missed that silent E. That's a skill. It's beyond where we were at. They're labeling pictures. They're still responsible for the fact that the pictures need to have the details, the picture as big as your hand, the colors, the realistic piece to it. Then eventually, and I'm looking at this is like mid-December, we talk about sentences, and we talk about the conventions of a sentence, and that sentences need to have capitals, and I'm teaching that explicitly, doing mini lessons on that, and I'm teaching it through mentor texts, and we look for capitals, we look for periods, we look for spaces in between our words. I also use something I got off Pinterest, 5-star coloring and 5-star writing. So we talk about spelling, neatness, capitals, and end marks. Those are the things I'm looking for. And so it's a lot. And then this is the narrative Lucy Calkins rubric that they use. It's like more like a checklist. How does my story go? Did I do it like a kindergartner? So then we go through this together as well. That their story went across the pages, that they told and drew a whole story, that pages were in order. What happened last in my story would happen first. And that the story is labeled, that who was there, what they did, and how they felt. So then there's another lesson. We go back and we add a lot about feeling, and we talk about how you felt when someone kicked you the ball and then you scored the goal, and that you can show feeling through your pictures and the people's faces, or you can show it through your words. So there's lessons on that as well. And people in action, we're looking for that. That's your craft, your elaboration. So there are these kind of big words through Lucy Calkins: overall, lead, transitions, ending, organization, elaboration, and craft, that I do not introduce to the children. We just kind of look through this checklist together. And if anything's not there, they go back and they fix it. And we meet again. And so it's a lot of conferencing, a lot of sharing out. After each time we write, I call 2 or 3 kids to share out what they did. So if we're working on erasing and going back and adding more to our stories, I'll have them take us through what they maybe erased and what they changed it to show that it's okay to make a mistake and really promote that. So narrative is a huge part of our year. And then we do, right now we're doing how-to books. So that's more of the informational. And the kids are writing, I can show you an example. I know how to talk to my dog Dempsey. And then we talk about first, next, and last. And this comes easier to the kids for sure. It's very concrete, and we go through the same sort of process, that they are drawing realistic pictures. They're touching and telling before they write. They actually get to start, I teach them how to number their pages. So 1, 2, and 3. And you might have more than 3 pages, which is great because you might have more than one step. So one step goes on each page, and your step might be might have a couple sentences. It might be more detailed because there could be more to the story. And I try to encourage that, really stretching out those ideas. And we do a lot of acting it out. So they'll get with a partner and they'll read their story, and their partner has to act it out. And then they can think, oh, that doesn't make any sense. And they can go back and add more details to their drawings and to their writing. So that's where we're at right now. And then we'll move into opinion writing, and that we'll do that April, May, and then I'll go back and I'll swing back to narrative just to really make sure that's concrete, because that's what they'll start with in first grade. And then I have pre and post. I'll have the pre-assessment that I did at the beginning in October, and I can compare that to their June and kind of really see that growth, which will be great. And I'll again use this rubric to go through and check it out. Yeah.
How do you create your lessons?
So I guess I kind of talked about that. I pull from so many different resources. I pull from the drawing writing book. I pull from the Lucy Calkins books, which are broken up into, like, there's a book, all how-to book. There's an opinion book. There's the narrative book. There's the assessment book. There's how to launch the writing workshop book. This is the first one I focus on. So I pull from what feels right to me. I actually have a Teacher Pay Teachers printout too about starting the writing workshop. So I use different lessons from different places, and basically I choose based on the needs of my kids in my class and what I think is going to help me stay organized and them stay organized. And if I notice that they still need work on stretching out words, I'm going into all these different resources and really trying to read up more on it and figuring out how I can best teach them and reach them.
What types of writing do students do majoring in early childhood education?
So they do the opinion, they do the narrative, and then they do the informational. And informational is different this year. It's more the how-to do something instead of just writing information about a topic like Martin Luther King Day, which we used to do in the past.
Out of the types of writing that you do in early childhood education, which one is your favorite to write and which one's your least favorite?
I'm enjoying the how-to books right now, and it's the first time I've done that. And I do love the opinion too. That we'll do a lot. We'll read some books and they'll compare and contrast the books and what they like better and why they like it. I think my least favorite is the narrative. I think it's so meaty. There's so much to it. There's a lot required of them, and our report card has us teaching that first. So I almost wish we did start with something like the how-to or opinion, and then kind of progressed to the narrative when they were more ready.
Are there any certain skills or tips you recommend for a student like me to exceed in these types of writing?
I think just using all your resources that you have. Go on Pinterest, go on Teachers Pay Teachers, talk to other teachers. There's so many great resources, and the more you talk to people and see how they did it, and then you can, or reflect upon the lessons that you use. I love the lists that I do, the stretching out the words. I think that's so important. We also do handwriting separately. So at the beginning of my year, I'm starting it out with Play-Doh, and they're building the letters with foundations. They're push pinning the letter, and they're paper tearing the letter. And every week we go through this. And I think teaching the handwriting and kind of allowing yourself to not focus on the handwriting in the writing at the beginning when you're trying to just get those letter sounds out. It's hard, but it's something I would recommend for sure.
How much professional writing is necessary in the education field?
I do a lot of special ed paperwork, so I'm doing writing all the time. Are you mean professional development or?
Yeah.
Professional development, okay. So we got professional development writing training in the Lucy Calkins. I got it last year, and it was offered again this year to any teacher that hadn't done it. So I guess every 2 years, I mean, things are constantly changing, so it is good to stay up to date. We also had meetings, grade level meetings and district-wide meetings this year, professional development that the town offered, and we were able to work with our writing coach who's district-wide, K-8, and she kind of took us through it, and because we've really transitioned from an old writing model to this new writer's workshop model to Lucy Calkins, and we've needed support with that. And we're constantly talking as a team, as a kindergarten team, and talking to first grade teams and seeing how they're doing things in other schools. And we have professional learning communities that some members of our team, of the kindergarten team, are on, and they bring the information back to me to share with me what's going on in the writing. So definitely at least like a formal training every couple of years, but throughout the year you need it as well.
What types of writing is the most time consuming in the education field?
Definitely the narrative writing that we do. It goes on for months. We start in October. We go through at least January, and then, like I said, I'm going to swing back to it in May just to make sure they really got it down, because that's the same writing they'll do in first, second, third, fourth.
How often do you write per day in your everyday career?
I write a lot. I write morning messages to my kids every day, and they're interactive when we go through that. I am, like today, it's St. Patrick's Day, I wrote a message to them from a leprechaun. So print is so important for them to be seeing. And I do a lot of special ed paperwork, so I have initial meetings that happen often for kids in kindergarten. I have 3-year reevals that I have to fill out paperwork for. I have meetings with parents, and I take notes when I'm doing that, and I give them suggestions and have them send it home. I write weekly newsletters to my families through email. I have to write emails and responses to families. Yesterday we had a staff meeting, and we had a ticket out, and we had to write just a quick a thought down on a Post-it note that we had to stick. So constantly, I guess, I'm doing a lot of writing.
Do you take a certain class dedicated to writing in this field, either in college or somewhere else?
I did. In my undergrad, I took a Foundations of Writing class at Endicott College, and I did early childhood writing as well. And it just took us through the different stages of development and how the pre-writing skills that they need to be confident and to be able to just form letters, and then to how that progresses through they get through the early childhood years. So I haven't taken one in a few years, but I have all this training that I've gone through, which has been helpful.
And that's it.
That's it.